Hello again. Welcome to Defense Matters, where we are talking mostly IDP, all fantasy football, one of the many shows on the Big Three Network. I'm your host, Jordan Rains. You can find me on Twitter at 50 Shades of Drunk. I'm also a senior writer at dynastynerds.com. You can go over there and check out my Dynasty rankings, check out any articles that I've got written lately. And I'm co-host of the IDP 411 podcast, which is the other podcast I'm on. You guys can find that at expandtheboxscore.com, along with my full IDP rankings for the 2020 season. And that's where I'll also be updating in season for the weekly rankings. It's your first time tuning in. I want to say sincerely thank you guys. I appreciate it. And if you want to help support the show, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. And if it is on Apple Podcast, if you want to leave a quick 5-star review and a little rating and a little review, that would be awesome. I would super appreciate that. So we're going to go ahead and jump into today's show, which is going to be my 2020 rankings for defensive backs. So we're going to go through my top 3 tiers, really. Defensive backs, I didn't break into a lot of different tiers like I did some of the other ones, but 3 tiers, my top 3 tiers. I'm going to go ahead and outline what is going to be the scoring format, which I actually just had up on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to pull that back up. IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring, which is pretty close to a lot of really good scoring systems out there. 1 point for quarterback hits and assisted tackles. 2-point plays are solo tackles and tackles for loss. And then 3-point plays are forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, pass defended, safeties, block kicks. And then your 6-point plays are sacks, interceptions, and IDP touchdowns. If you're in a league that's not IDP 1, 2, 3, you might want to go check the scoring format. It'll probably be pretty similar to this. I've been noticing a lot of the leagues I play in, they don't call it IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring, but it's usually just modified slightly. I mean, it might be 1 point extra here, minus half a point, over there. Maybe their quarterback hits are 0.75. But a lot of leagues that are well designed are very similar to this scoring format. And that's what I encourage people to play in. And that's kind of what I have planted my flag on and kind of branded as the scoring format that I'm always going to be talking about. So, appreciate you guys listening in, like I said so far, and I'm going to go ahead and break down what is going to be a tier. So we're going to go through my first 3 tiers: tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So the outline is, I have them broken into elite defensive backs in my tier 1, great defensive backs in my tier 2, and serviceable defensive backs in tier 3 and beyond. Elite defensive backs in tier 1 are guys that I'm locking in as defensive back 1s this year. Great defensive backs are tier 2. They high end upside, DB2s. And some of them will probably finish as DB1s, but we just, I'm not as confident that they are going to get there. And then my serviceable guys are my DB2s and 3s, guys that are probably going to be streaming, moving in and out of my lineup week to week, just based on matchups and things of that nature. So I'm going to go ahead and outline them. For elite defensive backs, tier 1 guys, I'm looking for 100 plus tackles and or 18 or more impact plays. Impact plays are a little different for the defensive backs because I included sacks in the impact plays with these guys. So you're looking at sacks, forced fumbles, interceptions, tackles for loss, fumble recoveries, pass deflections, all those things that are anything that's not like a 1 or a 2-point play. I've said that on the other 2 shows, the defensive line show and the linebacker show. So, but I added sacks to the defensive backs just because that's another way that you can't really stat that out or, project a lot of these defensive backs to get sacks, but a lot of them will get 1 or 2 throughout the season. So I just added those into the impact plays for them. So I'm going to go ahead and break down the guys that I've got in my tier 1 defensive backs for this season. Starting out with Jamal Adams as my number 1 guy. I got Jamal Adams, my DB1, Budda Baker as my DB2, Landon Collins as my DB3, Derwin James at 4, Jabril Peppers 5, John Johnson 6, Tracy Walker 7, Jordan Poyer 8, and then Harrison Smith at 9. So I'm going to go ahead and, kind of break down why these guys landed where they did for me, when I'm kind of projecting them for the season, all that good stuff. So we'll go ahead and just start off with the very top, Jamal Adams. So Jamal Adams is a guy that in the past few weeks, he got traded from the Jets to Seattle. And some people have moved him down their rankings because of that, which is fine. That's your prerogative. And they are citing, there wasn't super valuable IDP assets maybe in Seattle and, for defensive back. But my rebuttal to that is kind of this, if you look at Cam Chancellor, he was the strong safety that was really big there for a while. And you look at his 3 best seasons. So the seasons, he only started 3 seasons where he had 15 plus games played. So you look at those seasons. In those seasons, he averaged 99 tackles and 16 impact plays. So he was just outside of my thresholds for what I'm considering a tier 1 top tier guy. He averaged, like I said, 99 and 16. He was never an All-Pro. Jamal Adams has already been an All-Pro once and to the Pro Bowl twice. Cam Chancellor only went to the Pro Bowl 4 times in 7 years, and like I said, was never an All-Pro. I think it's safe to say that Jamal Adams is a better player, at least for IDP so far. But I think, just a better player. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, he's got that swag. He's a very special guy. He can do everything. And so if you're telling me that you're going to put him in a role where a guy that was never had an All-Pro season when he was playing 16 games was putting up basically 116, I think Jamal Adams can hit that threshold. I'm not knocking him down my rankings at all because he moved, and that's just kind of how I feel about it. So Jamal Adams is my number 1. Going to move down to Budda Baker at number 2. Budda Baker was a guy I was very high on last season, and I got him on a lot of teams. I traded like a second-round pick for him in a dynasty league. A lot of people don't like trading, first or second-round picks for defensive players, but I mean, if it helps me win, I'm not scared to do it. And I made the playoffs in that league. It was my first year, and there was like a supplemental draft thing, so I had to make some moves to put myself in contention. I think I might win this year, but anyway, back to Budda Baker. In 2019, he was the only defensive player to eclipse 100 solo tackles. Only one. Luke Kuechly didn't do it. Jordan Hicks didn't do it. Jalen Smith didn't do it. Jack Cunningham, all these big tackle guys did not do it. The only player to do it was Budda Baker, 100 solo tackles, and he had 104. Then he was the first defensive back to eclipse 100 solo tackles since 2016 when Landon Collins had 100 solo tackles. Budda Baker doesn't have the super high impact plays, or at least he didn't this last year. He had 15, but when you're getting 100 solos and the threshold is just 100 combined, I think he had 147 total. He's well within his range of outcomes is to be another defensive back 1. So for me, Budda Baker comes in at number 2. I'm not moving him down. Arizona's offense got better, but their defense should still be on the field plenty, I think, this year. And Budda Baker is he's just a game wrecker. He's here, he's there, he is every single where. So that's why I have him that high. So my third guy on the list, Landon Collins. Landon Collins is kind of crazy. I mean, these are his impact plays the last 5 years. 16, 33, 14, 10. That was in 2018 when he only played 12 games. And then 2019 he had 16. So he can get up there in the impact plays, and he's only been under 100 tackles once in his career, and that was also in 2018 when he only played 12 games, and he still had 96. So the tackle floor is there. He's, like I said, he's gone over every single year except for one, and that was just because he didn't play. If he would have played, he would have gone over. He would have hit this threshold every year of his career, assuming he had played 16 games. And the impact plays they can get up there. I mean, he's basically, even with the 33 impact play season in 2016, I mean, he's averaging around 20, 22. But even if you could take that out, he's still pushing 16, 17 a season. And with that, the tackle floor being so high, and, that's 1 or 2 plays away from that 18 threshold, he's a lock for me as a defensive back 1 going into 2020. I think people are kind of catching on. He's not quite as cheap as he was early in the offseason in drafts, but I'm snagging him up everywhere I can, any which way I can, and I'm very confident in him. And if he was one of the guys that if I was going to move anybody above Jamal Adams, it was going to be Landon Collins, just because of the consistency of what he can do. But in the end, I'm doing my research. I'm putting my faith in Jamal Adams at number 1. So my next guy on the list at number 4 is Derwin James. I'm not going to linger too long on Derwin James. He gets a lot of love in the IDP community. He has 7 tackles for loss in his career over 21 games. I'm not a huge fan of that for a strong safety or a free safety, wherever he plays. Everybody says he's like a hybrid, this or whatever, but he's not getting behind the line of scrimmage quite as much as I'd like. But the impact plays are there. He had, I think, 19 in his rookie season. This last year he was injured, so he missed some time, but he went over 100 and he gets up there. So, I mean, if you want him to be your one, go for it. I have some doubts about him though, personally. So I'm not putting him any higher than 4. The guy I have behind him is a guy I have on a lot of teams, and that's Jabril Peppers at number 5. So if you look at Jabril Peppers' 2019 season, he only played 11 games, unfortunately, because he had a back injury. But if you look at his pace for that season or this last season, his total tackles would have been 112. That would have been more than Deion Jones. His solo tackles would have been 75. That's more than Tremaine Edmonds had in 2019. His tackles for loss would have been 7. That would have been the same number as Bobby Wagner. He would have had 7 pass deflections. That's more than Deion Jones. 3 quarterback hits, 4 forced fumbles, and that would have put him at defensive back 5, which would have been 5 more points than Landon Collins had in 2019. So he was pacing for a big boy season. He was going to be a top 5 defensive back. When you were playing him last year, you felt good. Every week that he was in your lineup, you felt good about it. The only knock on him right now is his health. But like I said, that's a fluke injury. They didn't bring him back because the Giants weren't really in anything. He's developed into a really solid player, and for me, he's a top 5 guy. I have him at 5. I think he's going to eat again this year in New York. I know they brought in Blake Martinez. They brought in Xavier McKinney, but I'm not overly concerned. I think Jabril Peppers is a playmaker. I think he's been a playmaker for a long time, and I think he's finally got his sea legs, so to speak, in the NFL, and I think we're going to get a big season from him in 2020. Coming in number 6, I have my man, John Johnson. In 2018, he had 19 impact plays, 116 tackles. And in 2019, he was pacing for a 150 tackle campaign before he got injured. I'm not saying he was going to get there, and I'm not projecting him to hit that number this year, but it is worth noting he was crushing. He had 51 tackles, I believe, through 5 games this last year, 6 games. So he was on pace to have another monster season, well over 100 tackles. The impact plays were a little lower because his pass deflections were not quite as high as they were the year before, at least pacing wise. But when you're on 150 tackle pace, 15 impact plays will be fine. 12 impact plays will be fine. So he's well within that threshold of a tier 1 defensive back for me going into the season. Just based on those numbers alone. No reason to knock the guy. Coming in for me at 7, we got my man Tracy Walker. Tracy Walker is a really fun guy. He's probably the cheapest of all these tier 1 players because he's only done it once, and he also got hurt last year, so he burned some people. But in 12 starts, he had 100 tackles. So he already hit my threshold in an abbreviated season. And not only that, he had 16 impact plays. So in 12 games, he had 16 impact plays and 100 tackles. He already hit one of my thresholds. He was, 2 away from the other threshold. Lock him in. They didn't do a whole lot. They brought in Jamie Collins in Detroit, which is, a little worrisome, I guess. But I still think Tracy Walker is going to be the main other guy to get tackles there besides Jamie Collins this next year. So I'm not afraid to take Tracy Walker confidently as a defensive back 1 in 2020, and I believe you should as well. I think you'll like it. I think it'll turn out well for you. And he's going to be cheaper than anybody I've named so far. The next tier 1 guy I've got at number 8 is my man Jordan Poyer with the Buffalo Bills. In 2018, 100 tackles and 23 impact plays. 2019, 100 tackles, 16 impact plays. He's hitting these tackle thresholds. The impact plays are definitely there. He can get up there in the impact play department. So don't sleep on him. Just because he's in Buffalo and just because he's old. He's only 28. He's younger than the next guy on this list, who's also a total savage. So don't sleep on Jordan Poyer. He's a tier 1 guy for a reason. He's solid, and he can get you those big plays, from time to time, and he can take them up over 20. So don't shy away. Next guy on my list at number 9 is Harrison Smith. This will be the end of my tier 1 guys that I'm uber confident in his defensive back ones. And Harrison Smith, I mean, his numbers speak for themselves. These are his impact plays the last 3 years: 2017, 25, 2018, 24, 2019, 24. So he's having 24 plus 3-point plays in the last 3 years. That's big. I mean, that's big for a defensive back. That's big for anybody. And on top of that, Harrison Smith's also got a rock solid tackle floor. The 3 years that I just mentioned, 2017, 78 tackles, doesn't quite hit that DB1, that Elite 1 threshold, 84 and 85. But his impact plays are so high. And if you watch him play, Harrison Smith is a playmaker. I don't think those impact plays are going to go away. He's a special player on the field. He, a multi-interception guy the last 3 seasons, and he's only had 1 season where he did not have multiple interceptions. And he's hit up to 5 twice. So he's a total Swiss Army knife out there. He's kind of, in a similar mold as Jamal Adams, in a similar mold as a Tyrann Mathieu. I mean, these guys aren't just stand in the middle of the field and gobble up tackle monsters. I mean, these are playmakers. These are difference makers. So that rounds out my tier 1 defensive backs. I'm going to read them back to you guys one more time. I got 1, Jamal Adams; 2, Budda Baker; 3, Landon Collins; 4, Derwin James; 5, Jabril Peppers; 6, John Johnson; 7, Tracy Walker; 8, Jordan Poyer; and 9, I got Harrison Smith. So we are going to slide on down into tier 2. And so tier 2 defensive line, or defensive back, excuse me. These are DB1s with high upside, or these are DB1s and DB2s with high upside. So these are guys that are right on the cusp of being DB1s. They will have weekly DB1 weeks. Some of these guys will probably finish the season as defensive back 1s. But I'm just a little bit more hesitant on these guys. And here are the thresholds I'm looking for these guys in this tier: 85 or more combined tackles and or 15 or more impact plays. So we're bringing it down from 118 to 85 and 15. So I'll start by reading off the tier, and then I'll kind of hit my highlights. So the guys that are in this tier, starting off at number 10, I have Vonn Bell. Number 11, Taylor Rapp. 12, Jesse Bates. 13, Tyrann Mathieu. 14, Terrell Edmunds. 15, Jonathan Abram. 16, Justin Simmons. 17, Ronnie Harrison. 18, Jeremy Chinn. 19, Xavier McKinney. 20, Keanu Neal. And 21, I have Kyle Dugger. That finishes out my tier 2. So I'm not going to talk about everybody in this tier, but I am going to highlight a few players. I'm going to start with Tyrann Mathieu. I've got him at 13. Honey Badger, he's on my Chiefs, so got to show love to him. 2019, he had 75 tackles and 21 impact plays. One of his better seasons in a while. The big thing about Tyrann Mathieu, though, is he's not a 100 tackle guy. He's never had a 100 tackle season. I think his biggest combined tackle season was 89. I believe that was the year before last with Houston. But that same season, excuse me, he's consistently a high impact play guy. He's consistently putting up 15, 16 impact plays. And, sometimes he's jumping even higher than that. But because he doesn't have the ability to really hit that 100 tackle floor, I really couldn't put him into my tier 1 as much as I wanted to. I love him as a defensive back 2. I love him as one of the more safe defensive back 2s because the tackle floor, is, right around 75, 80, which isn't exactly that threshold, but the impact plays are consistently high for him, 15, 16, 17. And he's had seasons where he's gone over 20. So, and health isn't an issue for him anymore. He's had 3 healthy seasons in a row, and he's had some of his better seasons that were abbreviated seasons. So the best of Honey Badger may still be yet to be seen. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out and has a career year in 2020. He's on a team that's full of swag. He's one of the best defensive players on that team. They just won a Super Bowl. He's a ball player. So big fan of Tyrann Mathieu. He was my number 13. Another guy I want to highlight in this tier 2 is Terrell Edmunds. He's right behind Honey Badger at 14. Now, his play style is a little bit more boring, I guess you would say. He's not a big impact play guy. He only had 5 in 2019. but his tackle floor is not bad. I mean, he had 105, 71 solos. So we are going to put him safely into this category. And on our other show, Jared brought up a pretty good point. If you guys listen to the IDP 411 a couple of weeks ago, or I guess it was last week on our My Guy show, when you look at Terrell Edmunds' season this last year, 5 impact plays, 105 tackles, and then you go look at a guy like Keanu Neal, which a lot of people love, and you look at Keanu Neal's first season in the league. I mean, he had 106 tackles and 12 impact plays. Impact plays are a little higher, but not massively different on your baseline stats than Terrell Edmunds. The next year, his tackles did go up a little. His impact plays went up just a hair. But, I mean, 5 forced fumbles that one year, I mean, that's a little fluky. I mean, let's be completely honest. Just a little fluky. So there's something to be said about Terrell Edmunds, a guy that doesn't have any impact plays and is already running around with this high floor. He's on a very disruptive defense with the Steelers. TJ Watt, Devin Bush, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joe Hayden, Mike Hilton. I mean, these guys are all – I mean, the Steelers' defense is pretty good. So there's a world where these impact plays that he's not getting, he gets some of that quote-unquote positive regression towards the mean. He comes up with, maybe he gets a couple of forced fumbles or fumble recovery this next season. So keep your eye on Terrell Edmunds. Don't be shocked if he pushes his way easily into the top 15, maybe even top 12 this year. Still tier 2 for me because I want to see him do it. But he's 14 for a reason. He's a very safe defensive back too, and he's so cheap in drafts. Guys, I mean, he's going to be cheaper than guys after him on this list, like Jonathan Abrams. I have him at 15, or Keanu Neal even. He'll probably be cheaper than Keanu Neal. I have him at 20. He'll probably be even cheaper than some of the guys I have in tier 3. I mean, there's drafts where he'll probably be cheaper than his stable mate, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who I've got at 22, but we'll get to that in just a moment. The last guy I want to highlight in tier 2 is Taylor Rapp. As a rookie, Taylor Rapp, he's in my 11. Last year, as a rookie, he had 100 tackles, and 15 impact plays. I love Taylor Rapp this season because the Rams got rid of Corey Littleton. With Corey Littleton moving on, John Johnson and Taylor Rapp are kind of the only guys on that defense that are kind of tackle guys. I'm not talking about Aaron Donald here, but that I know we can count on. And because of that, I have them both ranked high. I mean, 100 tackles last year for him. Eric Weddle, who was on the team last year, he had over 100 tackles. John Johnson, who's a tier 1 guy, was pacing for 150 tackles. There's 3 safeties on that team that were fantasy relevant the weeks they played last year. Weddle's gone. Littleton's gone. Taylor Rapp season. Can I hear it for Taylor Rapp? I think he's going to go over 100 tackles pretty easily. The impact plays, he had 15. He has one more season like this, and he's going to be a tier 1 guy for me. So, and especially if John Johnson moves on next year and he kind of takes over as the guy in that, kind of secondary there as the thumper, get out. I mean, he's going to have a great career there. So those are all the guys I wanted to really highlight in tier 2, but I'm going to read tier 2 back to you one more time. We got Von Bell, just moved to Cincinnati. Taylor Rapp, the Rams. Jesse Bates, also Cincinnati. Tyrann Mathieu, Kansas City Chiefs. Terrell Edmunds, Pittsburgh Steelers. Jonathan Abram, Las Vegas Raiders. Justin Simmons, Denver Broncos. Ronnie Harrison. Quickly on Ronnie Harrison, didn't really come to fruition last year for him in Jacksonville, but he was very playable whenever he was on the field. He had some injury problems, but don't sleep on Ronnie Harrison this year. He's another one of these guys that I really like. You might hear more throughout the season about him. His name will probably come up a lot. 18, Jeremy Chinn. 19, Xavier McKinney. 20, Keanu Neal. And 21, Kyle Duggar. Near the end there, we had 3 rookies. Jeremy Chinn, Xavier McKinney, Kyle Duggar. All those guys are kind of walking into a situation where they're going to get playing time. I mean, Xavier McKinney is going to fill in for Antoine Bethea, who's gone, playing next to Jabril Peppers. Jeremy Chinn is going to take over for Eric Reed, who was the number 2 safety last year. Number 2 defensive back, I believe, or 3, maybe Von Bell, or not Von Bell. Maybe I think Budda Baker was just a little ahead of him. And then Kyle Duggar, who a lot of people were super high on, and then everyone kind of took all that love and put it on Jeremy Chinn because he went to New England, and then New England signed Adrian Phillips, and we weren't really sure what's going to happen, and we all got really scared. and then like 6 defensive players on the Pats opted out. So the skill set that Kyle Duggar brings is kind of this hybrid strong safety linebacker. I truly believe he's going to get onto the field early, and I think he's going to get on the field often in 2020. So he comes into a tier 2 for me. I could see him just having a season where he hits 85 tackles or the 15 impact play threshold. I just feel like it's there. So I couldn't not put those 3 safeties or 3 rookies into this tier because they're walking into a spot where the workload should be there. They've, were touted, they've athletic, all that good stuff. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is on these guys. And I'm just kind of trusting that they're going to hit. So let's slide on down to tier 3. Tier 3, this is a pretty big tier here, and these guys are all going to fall into the kind of thresholds that I'm looking for are 70 or more tackles and or 12 or more impact plays. So let's talk about tier 3. Leading the way with tier 3 at number 22, we have Minkah Fitzpatrick, Justin Reid, Khari Willis, Tre'Davious White, Malcolm Jenkins, Kevin Byard, Marcus Peters, Chuck Clark, Marcus May, Kyle Fuller, Anthony Harris, Trey Boston, Antoine Winfield Jr., Marlon Humphrey, and Grant Delpit. That takes us down to 36. These are the guys that I'm very confident are going to hit these thresholds. The thresholds I described, 70 plus and or 12. Minkah, let's talk about Minkah real quick. Last 2 seasons, in 2019, he had 69 combined tackles. So that's just under that threshold. But he had 21 impact plays. That's enough to get him into tier 1 because, these are 3-point plays plus. Now, I'm being realistic here. I didn't even put him in my tier 2 because we haven't seen him go over 80 tackles in his career. So he has a 70 tackle season, basically 69 and 21 in 2019. And in 2018, he had 80 tackles, higher tackles, but 14 impact plays. But the thing about that is he only started 11 games in 2018. So we've only seen one full 16-game starting season from Minkah. And in that season, he had 21 impact plays. I think Minkah is going to push himself into tier 2 this next year and firmly stay there. I'm still very confident in Minkah as a defensive back too. This tier 3 is guys I'm calling DB2s and 3s. I think he's easily going to hit these thresholds, and he's going to do it with some style. So he leads off the pack right there. Justin Reid struggled with injury last year, but we know he can be a 75 tackle kind of guy. Khari Willis had 70 tackles last year, only started a handful of games, only played like 60-70% of the snaps last year for the Colts. So I'm expecting big things from him this next year as he moves into hopefully a starting role. I know they signed another safety and they got a rookie safety, but the players really seem to like Khari Willis. The coaches seem to like Khari Willis. They need depth there. Let's just be honest. Just because a player signs somewhere, people get kind of skittish, but at the end of the day, you need bodies to back up bodies, and the best players are going to play, and there's a reason he was drafted. There's a reason he got play last year. Whoever they brought in I'm not overly scared of. I think he's going to make a big jump this year. He comes in at 24 for me. One last guy in this area I want to highlight is Tre'Davious White. I don't talk a lot about corners, but corners are productive. They score. They get impact plays, especially the guys that get pass deflections. Interesting thing about Tre'Davious White is he had a lot of tackles for loss last year. Tre'Davious White had more tackles for loss last year than Derwin James. Don't tell Derwin James truth or that. And in 2017, he had 3. So in 2017, a 16-game season, he had 3. In this last year, he had 4. He had 1 the year before. He has 8 total in his career, but Derwin James only has 7. So for a safety or for a cornerback, I really like that he gets up on the line of scrimmage and he can push past it and make some plays. But anyway, I digress there for a moment. In 2019, Tre'Davious White had 30 impact plays, 30 plays of 3 or more points. Wild. 2018, that number was not quite as gaudy. It was 11. But go back to 2017, 29 impact plays, another gaudy number. He's averaging 60 tackles a season. So the 70 tackle threshold is not there, but the impact plays for this guy are sky high. So if you're looking for a cornerback that can actually, get it done for you and has on, more than one season, this isn't like an outlier thing. He's had 2 seasons like this now. Um, I love Tre'Davious White as a corner that you can play every week as probably a low end DB2, but he's got high upside. The tackle floor is not necessarily there, but because he gets the interceptions, because he can get a lot of pass deflections, because he can get you the occasional tackle for a loss. Tre'Davious White is a guy that I'm not sleeping on this year. I've got him up at 25 right now going into the season. These rankings may change a little between now and when the season kicks off, but I'm not expecting it to change dramatically. So I wanted to highlight him. People. I don't want people to think I hate on corners completely. I've got other corners in this same tier. Who else? I got Marcus Peters here. He's at 28. This guy's he's a machine too when it comes to impact plays. I mean, I think he leads the league in interceptions since coming in the league, multiples a year. I can't believe the Rams got rid of him and brought in Jalen Ramsey. I mean, they already had anyway. I won't go into that. Marlon Humphrey, another guy that's also in this tier. He's another cornerback. So don't let anybody tell you I don't play cornerbacks. I do play cornerbacks. I've got quite a few of them here, there, and everywhere. And I'm just going to go ahead and read off the top couple of guys in actually, I'm going to read off tier 3 again for you. And I'm going to read off the first few guys in tier 4, but I'm not going to go deep into it. Rankings are on expandtheboxscore.com. It should be a drop-down tab, should be IDP rankings. You should be able to find them pretty easily, and you guys can look at them there. And then you can @ me on Twitter, DM me, find me on Instagram, whatever, ask questions. That sounds great. I love that stuff. But, okay, so tier 3, one more time. 22, we got Minkah Fitzpatrick. 23, Justin Reed. 24, Kari Willis. 25, Tre'Davious White. 26, Malcolm Jenkins, who is going to the Saints and should be back with the Saints, should be taking over for Von Bell. Should be a productive role there. I have him a little bit lower just because he's not as sexy. He's not as big play. And I don't know how they're going to use him with the move necessarily. There's inconsistency always gives guys just a tiny bump down. Generally, not always, generally for me. It is not in the case of Jamal Adams because he's amazing. 27, we have Kevin Byard. 28, Marcus Peters. 29, Chuck Clark. 30, Marcus May. 31, Kyle Fuller. There's another cornerback for y'all. 32, Anthony Harris, big play machine. 33, Trey Boston, 70-plus tackle guy, in and out, multiple interceptions. Love it. He's basically a cheaper Minkah Fitzpatrick that's not anywhere near as sexy. 34, Antoine Winfield Jr. should slide in there as a rookie, should have snaps available to him. Tampa Bay needs a playmaker in that secondary. 35, Marlon Humphrey, another cornerback, like I mentioned. And 36, Grant Delpit, another rookie. Should be playing some free safety in a division that has a lot of big tight ends. We got Mark Andrews running around out there. You've got Eric Ebron's running around out there now. So they need a safety that can cover and kind of hopefully get in there and break up some of these passes in a pretty tough division over there. And that is going to round out my tier 3. Tier 4, I'm just going to read off the first couple of names. I'm not really going to talk about them, but I got Bradley McDougald. He just went to the New York Jets. Kenny Moore at 38. 39, I have Darnell Savage. 40, I have Sean Williams. I don't know what's going to happen with Sean Williams. I think he's still going to be an asset you want on your team, at least to start the season. But I have no clue if they're going to put him out there a little, what his role is going to be. 100 tackle guy back-to-back seasons. He had big interception season a couple of years ago, so I don't want to sleep on him too much, but he is at 40. That's going to be a guy that's a defensive back 3 going into the season for me. 41, last guy I'll read off, I got Kenny Vaccaro. So those are my defensive back rankings and tiers for you guys. Go check them out on expandtheboxscore.com. Shout out Big 3 Network. And I guess real quickly, I want to talk about Shark Tank. Or is it Shark Tank? No, Shark City. Shark City. That's the league that the Big 3 guys kind of put together. We got some fun people over there. I want to kind of break down my team and my draft strategy real quick. I know the guys on the Big 3 podcast last night, I was kind of tuning in and out, listening to a little bit of them. But I'm going to kind of go over my team in there. So I had the 5 spot. No, I didn't. That's a lie. I had the 6 spot. Super flex, huge IDP roster. I think it's like 11 or 12 IDPs, and it's like 11 or 12 offensive players. This is my team so far. I went Lamar Jackson at 106, Tyreek Hill at 207, Kenyon Drake at 3.6, which is my running back one. And then I was the second person to take an IDP after Sigmund. No, I was a third person to take an IDP after Sigmund Bloom. He took Darius Leonard and Aaron Donald, and then Duchesne's, I don't know how to say his name. I need to figure that out. He took Daniel Hunter right ahead of me, but I got TJ Watt. TJ Watt's my number 2 dynasty linebacker. I think he's the number 5 linebacker for the season. He's a walking big play. I'm a Steelers fan. Guys were already taking defensive players. I was not scared to do it. And I got my guy. I didn't pussyfoot around. Went and got TJ Watt. Wasn't going to try to wait, see if he came back around. These guys are monsters in this draft. They've been getting sniped left and right. I took Josh Allen next. Got Juju in the 6th, which was a huge steal. Terry McLaurin in the 7th. Love that. Took my first defensive line, DeMarcus Lawrence in the 8th. Michael Gallup in the 9th. Dante Fowler in the 10th. I was very happy to get Dante Fowler there. These guys were all... the defensive line run was pretty heavy. We started 4 DLs in this league, so it was thinning out already pretty good. I think he was the 24th defensive line player taken, and he's in my top 15 or 16 for this season, so I was happy to get him. Will Fuller in the 11th. I had kind of a question there for myself when I was looking at Will Fuller. I said, do I want to take another running back and really fill out this position, or do I want to win week 1? And Will Fuller plays the Chiefs week 1 on Thursday Night Football. And I said, you know what? I just want to win week 1. I don't know who I'm going to come up against. I feel like Will Fuller is going to give me a shot to do that. So I took Will Fuller. I took Christian Kirksey was my second linebacker in the 12th. Marvin Jones finished out my wide receivers core there as my flex. I think we have 6 total. And then I took Antonio Gibson in the 14th round as my running back 2. So it's been a fun draft over there. There's been some guys, making some picks there. Kind of shocking to me. Some guys sniping me, but it's been fun, and I'm excited for the league. I'm excited for the season. I'm glad some of these guys are in here that have not played on Sleeper. Mike Wahlert, I don't think he plays on Sleeper. I know that Gary Davenport's in there. It's his first run on Sleeper, so welcome, Gary. We have Tom Kissenberry in there too, and then the big 3 guys: Johnny the Greek, Bobby Josh. You guys know Bobby Josh Addy, obviously superstars in the industry. Don't sleep. So anyway, I just want to kind of give you guys an idea of what my team is looking like right now. I have my next pick queued up. I actually have 99 guys in my queue right now. This next guy, I'm really hoping I land. And if I don't get him, I'll be okay with the next couple of players. So can't give too much away, though, because I don't get to pick for a little bit. So, well, that is going to just about finish us up on this show, guys and gals. Just want to say thanks for tuning in, listening. Like I said earlier, please, if you like the show, if you enjoyed it, leave a rating and a review on iTunes. It's like one of the only things you can really do to show your support besides listening, and it would be super helpful to get us up there and get IDP exposed. More people watching and listening to IDP content, more people that are going to be playing, the better your leagues are going to be, the better content's going to come into the space, the better content creators are going to come into the space. And then eventually IDP is just going to be mainstream like it should have always been. It's not going to be this weird kind of I don't understand it thing. It's going to be part of the conversation. That's what we want. But to get there, we have to have our voices heard. To have our voices heard, we have to have people like me, have people like Bobby, Tom, all these guys out there doing that. And the best way to get our voices out there and louder is for you guys to back us up. Give us a 5-star rating and review. Get all the other guys on the Big 3 Network. Give Mike's show a rating, a good rating. Give Joey's show a good rating. Big 3 guys, I'm sure they've got all 5-star ratings because they're 5-star over there. And then Bless the Knee, the other show on the network. And then we got a deep dive show too. So check those all out. And yeah, I think that's going to be it from me. And until next time, which I will do my week 1 rankings. We're that close, guys. We're just a little less than a month away. So I'm going to drop the music and I will see you next time, IDP Army. Farewell.